film carries this beautiful sentiment that sometimes you have to do the thing that scares you, which also ties back to why you created this short. Can you share a little bit about the inspiration behind this project and how you were able to weave in your own personal experiences?
Totally. So yeah, Practically Gay is a very personal story. It actually is kind of my story. And basically the inspiration came from an idea of like, what would I do if I were a little braver? Because I'm a millennial gay man is kind of how I'm operating through the world, but I have been with women and I had this experience before I wrote Practically Gay that was with a couple and it was a straight couple. And it was really interesting because I was like, oh, there's this other side of me that I've kind of like suppressed based on my history of being in the dating world and feeling like women that I was honest with about my like sexual history thought I was just coming out of the closet slowly or something, and gay men kind of thinking the same thing.
Mm.
And there is that like stereotype about some gay guys coming out like as bi first and then gay. And so it was interesting because I was like, what if I changed my dating settings and like actually did this thing after having operated as a gay man for a while, basically since I was first in LA is when I kind of had the experiences where I was like, okay, I'm going to stop trying to be bi and I'm just going to pick one. So yeah, I wrote this feature film about kind of that experience of what it would mean after a breakup to go and try to date around and date as women, like date women. And what came out of that, it was then this short film. It's like a proof of concept, and
Hmm.
that has been really special because it was kind of like, let's just make it. It was my first time directing, and again, kind of because it was such a personal story, I wanted to direct, even though I have never done that before. And it turned out really well. I'm really happy with it, and it's been received really well online, which has been really special too.
That's really exciting to hear that there is a feature script out there because also when you finish the short, there's so many possibilities of where kind of these characters' journeys could go. There's also so much vulnerability that you ask from your ensemble, even within this kind of shorter format. How did you create this space where they felt safe enough to tap into kind of those emotional depths? I love to hear, particularly with Darren and Deanne, whose characters open up in such a personal way and their experiences very much like life, are deeply individual. How did you kind of approach highlighting both their unique perspectives and similarities that connect them?
Yeah, so first and foremost, it was so important to me that we had an intimacy coordinator on set for this
Mm.
project. And we did also get one night of rehearsal with the intimacy coordinator prior to filming. So when we filmed some of the more intimate scenes, it wasn't the first time that we had talked about doing this, and the actors felt a little comfortable. It's also a testament, I think, to the actors for being willing to go there with me. So Doreen, our intimacy coordinator, was phenomenal. And then Darren and Dan actually both already had a friendship with Sarah, who was
Mm.
playing Paige. And so I think because of their both having that familiarity with Sarah, they also felt through like the transitive property of friendship that they would maybe like hit it off well as well. And so it was really special because it's a very small scale proof of concept. We didn't have a huge crew. And so it was like a very small set in terms of the number of people on set. And I think that created an intimacy as well. And yeah, but really it comes down to, I think the actors just being willing to share that part of themselves in and I guess the script in terms of like bringing that out of them. And it's interesting because like, Darren who plays Alex and Dan who plays Brent, they're coming at it from different angles. So they're both bi, spoiler alert, but they have different ways of deciding
Yeah.
how to deal with it. One choosing to be with women and one choosing to be with men. But then in these special moments, to kind of realize that maybe there isn't just a binary in terms of what that is possible there. And so I think they latched onto that idea in a really fun way and kind of just were willing to go there.
And the chemistry is so believable on screen. And as you were just saying, this is your directorial debut. Congratulations, by the way. Did you
Thank
find
you.
that your background as an actor influenced the way that you stepped into director's chair? What did you learn from this process that you'll bring on to the next film?
Definitely. So prior to this film, I've been a writer and a producer, and that came out of my acting. And so, like as a writer, I definitely write scripts that almost aren't they're definitely not overwritten. I think it allows it's kind of like a blueprint, but that it allows the actor to then like fill in like all of this extra space. And so I write my scripts where it allows the actor to kind of like see themselves in the role and kind of make some choices that I don't have to say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do
Mm.
this. And then that lends itself to when I was directing for the first time, being able to kind of communicate what was important to me and what I was interested in collaborating with these actors on, because they're all such talented actors that they had their own ideas of what their characters would do. And we spoke a lot about their individual characters. And because I had the feature script to like depend on and kind of like cite as like who these people were in my head, it was very helpful to kind of like have that larger world, that larger story to then inform some of the small choices that you see these actors make that like you maybe don't know why they make it until page 70 of this feature script. So the hope is that we can make that. But in terms of directing, I would say, um, yeah, that was the biggest thing for me was just making sure that the actors knew their characters and that it was a collaborative process and not just me telling them, hey, I know exactly who these people are. It's like I have an idea of what I'm trying to get across, and like, but I'm also very interested in like hearing these other people, what they bring to it.
Creating that space also builds that trust amongst everybody that's working on this project. Filmmaking is also such an editor's medium, and your stylistic choices from the underwater sequences to the transition are so seamless, and it makes you such an exciting new voice. As you were directing, how much were you thinking about how it all come together in the edit and making sure that you had enough coverage, especially with kind of the limited time?
Yeah, so I did also edit the project, and I think I write and produce with editing in mind because
Yeah.
the kinds of project I do produce are at like a micro budget scale. Like we're not operating with huge budgets, and therefore, like you said, we have less time, and with less time means less shots. And so, with the limited amount of coverage you get, how do you have to know how it's going to edit. So that definitely is a process that goes through in pre-production, making sure that we are telling the story visually in a way that like is going to work in the edit because we don't get to do reshoots and upon reshoots. And that also, I think I lent on my experience making a feature film called Augie. I had co-written, produced, and edited that feature film. And so when you're doing a feature, you really have to keep in mind what you're doing in terms of coverage. And we only had 12 days to shoot principal photography with that one. And so it was super, super fast shoot. And we basically wrote it in a way where like every scene would only have 3 setups. And those kind of constraints, they can seem limiting, but at the same time, there's something really like you can rise to the challenge with
Yeah.
constraints and like really just figure out what is the best 3 shots we can get and how can we tell this in an economical way. And that will put you in a good position in the editing room.
I feel like for actors too, it just makes them trust their instincts, just given the fact that they don't have kind of all the different takes. Also licensing music can be incredibly expensive, but the soundtrack in this film complements the story so well. With the original music from Morgan, how did they kind of impact the creative process, and what kind of went into the decision to incorporate all those different original compositions?
I've been a fan of Morgan's for a long time. We went to college together, and
Oh,
he's such a
cool.
talented singer-songwriter. He's a friend of mine, and he and I have been exchanging, different. As a fellow artist, it's really fun to kind of hear his new work before it comes out, and also same thing, share some of the things that I've been working on as it goes. And so, with Practically Gay, back in the script stage when I was writing the feature, I had kind of been listening to Morgan's music as a way to kind of get in the world of this story, and I think he was very flattered by that. And so he shared some new music that he had yet to release when we were filming Practically Gay. And so when I got to hear those songs, I was in the edit, and it was just like these all fit so well, and it was very fun to play around with which tracks were the best fit for that. And even on set, when we were filming that hot tub scene, the actors like we obviously filmed without playing the music, but like there's that little dance moment that's happening with Darren. And we were playing Morgan's music just to kind of get them in the vibe of like what kind of story we're telling tonally, because as you say, like Morgan's music tonally, I think really does
Yeah.
like elevate and contribute to the overall picture of what we're trying to say with this piece. So he is a queer artist, and I think just felt like the perfect fit for what we were trying to do. And I'm very lucky that he was able to come up part of the project in a way that like worked for our budget.
Yeah, that's so cool. And what a small world also. And it's also media and art play such a crucial role in reflecting the world that we live in and the different walks of life. Have you had the chance to read the comments that people are leaving about this short, how they feel seen and the gap that this project is filling? What has that response meant to you?
Yeah, I've read a couple of them. It has been really special because I feel like that's exactly why I tried to tell the story. And it is a story of self-acceptance. And I feel like YouTube is a place for, queer people to kind of see the representation that maybe traditional media doesn't always allow them to be shown. And, my goal with the feature is to continue to kind of push that and like get more representation out there, especially of like the B in LGBTQ. But I think having it on YouTube has been incredible just in terms of getting like 4 million
Women,
plus
yeah.
views. It's wild and way beyond my expectations. But I think like to see the comments of people who have seen themselves in Alex or in Brent, like it's really special because it's just letting the story carry on and affect more and more people in a way that like you can only do with something like YouTube or online.
Mhm.
Like I love film festivals, but like and like getting those like one-on-one conversations in that communal space is very special. But I think to also have the number of people who've been able to see Practically Gay on YouTube is really special because it's a just a different ball game in terms of like the impact you can have there.
Did you do a festival run for this film before you posted it onto YouTube?
We didn't do a festival run. We because it was a proof of concept, it was really initially going to be just a like selling device, like a companion piece to the script. So I've had some meetings with some wonderful production companies who really like loved the script. And it just happened to be that the meetings were right before the writer's strike and right after the writer's strike, which were awful timing in terms of like people feeling willing to kind of take a bet on like a indie story like this. But with putting it online and getting the number of views that we've gotten so quickly, I think it's exactly the proof of concept that I'm trying to
Mhm.
show, which is like, look, there's an audience for this film. Read the comments, see how people are responding to it. Um, Take a look at my revised script and like see if we can give it a shot.
Yeah, as somebody who goes to a lot of film festivals, I feel like your short would have played so well across all of the different ones throughout the year. And that's a huge credit to you. So I feel like within the 10 minutes, you connect with these characters and you want to learn more about them. I got one final question for you. You're talking about the full length feature. What's the update there? And also, what's next for you?
So with the short coming out on YouTube, there have been people who have reached out asking for the script, and some people have responded really well to it, and that's been exciting. My friend who was in the Sundance Lab for television writing had an incredible experience, loved the feature script, and she's encouraging me to apply to the Sundance Lab, and that's feels like that would be a dream, but also it's like very difficult to get in. So I think the next step is just revising the script that I did write and bringing it down in cost because I think one of the things that was most empowering about making this proof of concept was that we made it like for so cheap. Like we borrowed a location of a friend's house. We, got music from an incredible performing artist for like a friend rate. And so like all of these different ways. It was just like, why can't we do the feature version on this kind of level with like incredible actors who I am lucky enough to be connected to? And I'm making a revision of the script that is going to be more of like the micro budget version, where you keep the same emotional journey, but maybe some of the larger set pieces, you find creative ways as a producer to tell the same story with fewer actors or whatever it might be. And so I'm really excited about feeling empowered based on the success of the proof of concept online to have that in my back pocket because I do believe in
Yeah.
like the cavalry isn't coming. Like I love that I am represented by amazing literary managers and getting access to these like Hollywood production companies is a dream in terms of like the possibility of that working out. But I think the story is important enough to me to tell that I'm not willing to take no for an answer. And so, should no one be willing to make it at the budget that I've written the initial script at, I want to be ready to make it with Thunder Cane Productions, my production company. Matt, who shot the short, like could shoot the feature. And I'm just very excited and fulfilled by that possibility of making it on my terms.